Oh, right. He's jumping up and down.
I'm not jumping.
No, just the camera.
No jumping up and down, right. So no jumping up and down.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike Reeves, who's the world's foremost expert on EV. How long have you had in EV?
2 years, just over.
2 years. So, the expert in driving EVs and Saltby.
That's quite a build-up. I should say it did start in about 1960 with a Scalextric set. So thanks James, and afternoon everybody. Nice to meet you all. It's just about, it's called Electric Cars, What's It All About? And it's supposed to be an informal and informative talk lasting about 20 minutes. I could ask you to save any questions to the end and we can do a full Q&A if you want one. Couple of terms I want to just define, which should come up in the talk. BEV, B-E-V, battery electric vehicle, okay? Full electric, that is, not a hybrid. The opposite to a BEV is an ICE, which is internal combustion engine, which is petrols and diesels, okay? So I'll probably be referring to the difference between BEVs and ICEs, okay? As you probably know, from 2030, all new cars sold in the UK will have to be electric or hybrid. There'll be no petrol or diesel cars sold at all in the UK. We won't be thrown off the road or anything, but over a period of time, you know, cars will gradually go electric. So where are we now? March 22 this year, 16% of all the new cars were BEVs. And the top seller of all cars was the Tesla Model 3 in March 22. That's the top seller of diesels, petrol, electric, everything. So there's people out there with money, that's what I think, 42,500 for a Tesla Model 3, and that's the starting model. BEV sales have increased by 78% from last year to this year. So it's really on the move. So let's start with some myths. Exploding the myths. Commonly held misconceptions about electric cars. It'll never catch on. Well, it has already. We'll run out of electricity. Oh no, we won't, because renewables are increasing year on year. Another one, quite amusing one I found, the batteries run out in traffic jams. If the car's not moving, then there's no power being used. So if you start with 98%, you'll start off when you're moving with the same 98%. All the ancillaries in the car run off a 12-volt battery, just the same as a normal car. There's a big one really, which we've got to deal with in some more depth, which is the batteries won't last. Many EVs have an 8-year warranty. New EV has an 8-year warranty, very often 100,000 miles. Some along there, Teslas have a 150,000 mile warranty, in which they'll replace any cells that are dull if the battery stops giving a good charge. If they do fall or drop below 70%, they're replaced under warranty. At the end of life, people say, what are we going to do with all these car batteries that run out, you know, after 8 years or 10 years or however long it is? They can be recycled for home or commercial energy usage. But I think it's a bit of an aside this, and it's probably just my opinion. But I think in 10 or 15, certainly 20 years' time, most of us will have batteries in our homes, you know, internal batteries that gather the solar, which we've got on the roof panels and things like that. So the car batteries can be reused as that. And in terms of whether the batteries last again, the car I've got, which is a BMW i3, they've made 220,000 of those, and there's only a handful of warranty claims so far in 13 years. No, 2013, 9 years. You know, due to failure of the high voltage batteries. So they by and large the batteries do last. What you'll experience, and the reason this has a bit of traction, this statement, they won't last, is if you've got a 10-year-old EV, it probably won't do 100 or 200 miles anymore. It will probably do 80 miles or 60 miles in the winter. But then for some people, that's fine, because if all you're doing is driving to the shops or a local commute, because the majority of journeys in this country, the average journey length is 25 miles. The next myth to deal with, range anxiety. Anyone heard of range anxiety? Is that a thing? He's got an electric car. Range anxiety is really, you get in your electric car and you say, oh my God, I haven't got enough miles. I want to go down to up to London and it's 70 miles and I've only got 50 miles in my battery. Because you'll get an indicator on the dash, so you'll have an indicator telling you how many miles. So, you know, will I get a charge somewhere when I'm out on the road? Because I'm leaving home, I normally charge. And broadly the answer is yes, you will get a charge. If I can just explain. So when you fill up your petrol car or diesel, it shows you've got 400 miles. You can drive from here to wherever it is, Cornwall or somewhere, you know. But how many people actually drive 400 miles non-stop?
Very few.
You always stop for some reason, don't you? It's either a coffee or a comfort break or lunch or something like that. Well, if you pull in every 100 or 200 miles, that might take 20 or 30 minutes and you can get a decent charge in that time. Just a real life example, last week I went up to see my daughter in the Midlands. And first I stopped at Cobham Services on the M25. I went to a rapid charger, I plugged in, flashed the contactless card, no sign up, no apps, nothing. All you do is your bank card, plug it in, bank card, starts charging. I went and had a coffee and a sausage roll. When I came out 30 minutes later, the car's back up to 80%. That's only a rapid charge. There are chargers that are much faster than that. Some of the latest models will take a 250 kilowatt charge, which will give you 200 miles in half an hour. You know, on that occasion I got an extra 72 miles, which was enough to take me the rest of the journey. But my point is, you're going to stop anyway, so why not stop somewhere where there's a charger? And in the future, there'll be more places with chargers. It's increasing all the time. So you just plan your journeys really to stop once or twice. And there's an app on the phone which many of us have. It's called ZapMap. There are several different apps you can get on your phone, and it knows where you are through GPS. And you say, well, where can I get a charge? And it tells you that. In that example, at Cobham, there were 3 rapid chargers. It told me that 2 of them were occupied and 1 of them was free. And when I got there, it was still free. And I hasten to add that I've got my wife in the car doing the work on the phone while I'm driving along that, whatever it is. And it would even tell you if it's out of order. It would tell you charges out of order, so don't stop there. But there's another 2 or 3. So I think range anxiety. It's a sort of mindset thing, really. You know, we all think we need to do 300 or 400 miles without stopping, but in fact you do stop. And when you do stop where there's a charger. It's a good idea. The other one is next set of cards. Not enough chargers. So not enough chargers. Everybody says, yeah, but the charging infrastructure's not up to it, is it? There aren't enough chargers. Okay. True, there aren't enough chargers. Right at the moment, there aren't enough chargers. It's worth planning a journey away from busy periods. I mean, another anecdote, last year we decided to go somewhere for the weekend on, I think it was Saturday, the 21st of July, but you know what happens on roughly that Saturday? Well, the schools break up. So you get to Cobham, Toddington, wherever it is you're going, and there's actually a queue for the 3 chargers that are there. There's a queue. So it is worth planning your journey. But I hasten to add it's improved since then, because in 2016 there were 6,500 public chargers. Currently there are 32,000 public chargers. Network's growing at a rapid rate. And the government recently announced 1.6 billion for extra improvements to the charging network between now and 2030. And that means there should be 300,000 well, not rapid, but chargers. Okay, so it's going to improve tenfold, hopefully keeping up with the number of electric cars. BP Pulse, which is the electric charging arm of BP Oil, that have made all the profits recently. Yeah. They had just announced £1 billion for new ultra-rapid chargers, which the ones I was talking about, where in half an hour you can get 250 miles back in your car. You know. There are some chargers at Tesco, which James is an expert on, because they're free, and you know what James is like. So.
No, it's the one in Lewis.
Oh, the Lewis one.
They're pod points, aren't they, James? They're called pod points.
Yeah.
And what do you have to do to work those? Do you just flash the card and plug it in, or do you have an app?
No, it's an app.
You have an app on your phone.
Yeah.
Okay. But see, when I started electric driving 2 years ago, I got a whole screen of my smartphone full up with apps to charge the car, and I thought I needed them. And I quickly discovered that there are other ones coming on board. And there's loads of them now, where you just take your bank card out, flash it, and that's it. It's so easy. You don't need apps really. So that there aren't enough chargers right now, but there will be soon.
Oh, yeah.
Where are we going with this now? Oh yeah, they are way too expensive, these electric cars, aren't they?
Yeah.
Tesla Model 3, 43 grand. You're having a laugh, you know, who's got 43 grand in their pocket? Well, one of the reasons the Model 3 is so popular is because, well, it is a very good electric car, it should be for that money. But I think the majority of people buying these cars are their company drivers. So they have an allowance, they're on some sort of lease package, and you know when you have a company car you have to pay some tax on it called a benefit in kind or something. I don't know what it is now, it probably depends on your income or something, it depends on the car. But electric cars, I think I'm right in saying, they're currently about 1%. You only pay 1% tax instead of, you know, whatever your basic rate is, 20% or something. So they're very, very cheap compared with other company cars. So that's why all the Tesla Model 3s are getting sold. They are expensive though. The cheapest EV with 4 seats is a car called a Smart, which used to be a little city car, a little 2-seater city car. There's a 4-seater version of that, which all the Smarts from last year have been battery. They're all BEVs now. Can't go battery now. And that cost £20,000, £20,700. Still not cheap. I mean, how much is a Ford Fiesta or a VW, whatever the little VW is, you know, an Up or something. But yeah, the prices are coming down on them. Just for information, yeah, they are more expensive than ICE cars to buy, without doubt. But
I think they will get cheaper.
yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, as the manufacturing costs come down, you know, so it will happen. But I seem quite pricey. But it doesn't matter because once you bought one and spent all your money, mortgaged your house on one, like I seem to have done, they're cheaper to run. So I don't think I've got a slide for like that. Okay, so electricity is cheaper than petrol or diesel to drive a car. I use a mixture of home and public chargers. Most months, I'm sad enough to keep a check on this. Most months I average 4p a mile, something like that. And that includes out on the road at public chargers. Home is cheap because we've got cheap rate electricity overnight and so on. And the worst I've had was we recently did a 360-mile trip in East Anglia. We stopped 5 times for rapid chargers, and we did a home top-up at the end, and that's my most expensive trip, and that was 10p a mile. Where your average ICE car struggled with petrol prices as they are now, 15p, 20p a mile, something like that. You can get very economical petrol diesel cars that might give you 12, 13, 14p a mile, but you're nowhere near the sort of 4p to 10p range which you are. So you're going to save probably a quarter of your fuel budget. You're going to save 75% of your fuel budget. If you're paying £100 a month now, you'll be paying £25 a month for the same miles on electric. Also, of course, there's zero road tax. Road tax is completely free if it's a full battery car. Okay. Also, zero charges for these ULEZ zones, ultra low emission zones like London. The whole of London from the north to the south circular now is an ultra low emission zone, so you don't have to pay anything at all to go in that. and also congestion charge. I think you have to register for the congestion charge in central London for £10, but once you've done that, you can drive in and out no problem. And more cities are going for these ULEZ zones because they want to clean up the cities, obviously, clean up the air. Cheaper servicing, £260 every 2 years is what I pay so far. Not bad for a 2-year service. Better resale values. Well, as you probably know, second-hand cars in the last year or so have gone through the roof. You know, prices they've actually started going up because there are issues with having new cars because there was component shortage of, I think, semiconductors, chips, things like that. I heard this morning, actually, one of the reasons for that is that 50% of all the chips that go in new cars were coming from, no, not the chips, that's not true. There are two elements, neon and palladium, making up the chips in cars. And guess where they come from? 50% of them from Ukraine and Russia. So we're not getting much out of it, not getting anything out of Russia. So those items have got to be sourced somewhere else in the world. That's why new cars are in scarce supply. So second-hand car prices obviously go up to reflect that. I mean, as a real-life example, I bought my first i3 in March 2020, just over 2 years ago. Cost £13,000 second-hand. And I was looking yesterday for the purpose of the talk. I couldn't find any less than £13,000 for sale. So in 2 years, the price is pretty much halved. You know, the one that I bought back in October was £23,000. As I say, mortgaged the house for that one almost. Still £23,000. Couldn't find a similar car for less. So once you've bought one, the prices will stay very, very strong. I've got some real life second-hand prices that I looked up for Leafs and Zoes and BMWs. If anybody wants more detail. Really, the last bit of this talk, why change? Why should I change? Why don't I just keep my car? You know? Well, that's one reason, because of all this stuff coming out the back, and all the steam out the radiator, and the gearbox, the gears, the engine, the noise, the vibration, the valves, the oil. It's all there. You don't need it. You have one of these, and all you've got is an electric motor and a battery. So the reason I think everyone should change to electric cars, I'm sure James might agree with this, fully electric car is just fun to drive, isn't it? Isn't it? I think it is. Has anyone driven an electric car at all? Just have a go? Tell us about it. Okay, so when you get an electric car, it's nothing you can prepare you for it, really, because it's just so smooth and it's so quick and it's so easy because there's no gears, no clutch. You've got a switch or a button for a handbrake, electric handbrake. You've got this instant. Electric motors have this thing called instant torque from 0 volts. As soon as you touch the throttle, you are off. It's also very quiet and very smooth, so there's no noise, there's no bouncing, there's no chipping.
Are you going to put any noise into the...
Yeah, good point actually, yeah.
For pedestrian.
They are, yeah. The new ones now have to have a pedestrian noise. Below a certain speed, they make some sort of noise, and different manufacturers have different ideas. I think on the BMW that I've got, it makes a little sort of whining, a little sort of electric motor noise. If you spend £100 on a Porsche Taycan, it sounds like a spaceship. So I think you can tune which spaceship.
They should do the same with these electric scooters.
Yes, they should, shouldn't they? I agree, yeah. No, that is an issue. Good point to pick that up, yeah. So they're very quiet and smooth. Also, the braking, as soon as you lift off the pedal, this thing called regen kicks in, which basically means that the motor turns into a generator and puts power back into the battery. So you get a few extra miles. If you're going downhill, you get a few extra miles. So you don't use your brakes so much. James?
I was just going to...
Oh, so you agree. There's another, I'm nearly done with this actually, at the end of your questions. Another nice thing about them in the winter, I've got to be honest, I mean in the winter you get slightly less range because these batteries don't work as well when they're cold. But as long as you know that, there are issues around that, there are heaters and things that happen on most cars too. cold mornings, right, to de-ice your car, warm your car up, you just get your smartphone up, climatise, 10 o'clock, thank you very much, that gets sent to the car picks up the signal, and if you're going out at 9, at 8 o'clock, it will put the fans on, put the heaters on, demist the windows, you go out to a perfectly warm car with no eyesight. It's worth it for that alone at the end of the term. So the second thing, one is they're fantastically fun to drive, and if you ever get a chance to drive one, do take it. There are places you can get a free test drive. If you're ever anywhere near Milton Keynes, there's somewhere called is it the EV Centre, I think? And it's just like a big shop in the town centre. And they've got 3 or 4 cars around, and they say, I want to drive that one, I want to drive that one. There's no sales pitch or anything, it's down the line it's some sort of government initiative, you know, to get people to change. And we went there and we drove 2 or 3 cars, and it was great fun. Second big reason to change, of course, is this one here at the back, air pollution. Air pollution, it's a bit serious this bit. Air pollution is a public health crisis. A recent study on Channel 4 said that the UK is breaking air quality guidelines in almost every region, even rural areas, not just towns. Primary cause is petrol and diesel emissions. In 2021, a coroner called for a change in the law after air pollution led to the death of a 9-year-old girl who lived near the South Circular in Lewisham. And she died in 2013. The inquest found air pollution made a material contribution to her death. Evidently what she'd been doing was walking to and from school and the shops every day along the South Circular. If you've ever walked along the big main road, you can smell it, you know, the pollution in the air. So we really need to get rid of the pollution. The last reason really to get one is that they're cheaper to maintain, as I said before. They're expensive to buy but cheap to maintain. The reason they're cheap to maintain is because there's no oil to change, no gaskets, no valves. There's no engine to manage, there's fewer parts to wear down. An ICE drivetrain has 2,000 plus parts. An EV drivetrain has 10 to 20 parts. Like I say, it's just pretty much the motor and the battery and a few other bits and pieces. So what's there to wear out? Just the battery. Brakes last twice as long because you're using regen all the time. I mean, and all of that results in cheaper servicing, like I say, perhaps £250 roughly for a 2-yearly service. Really, I mean, the final thought on this is, leading up to 2030, just how far will the petrol car values drop between now and 2030? Because, I mean, in 2027, who's going to want to be buying a petrol or diesel car? Because, I don't know. By then, hopefully the message has got out further than this room, and people realise how nice they are to drive. So that's it, that wraps up. I don't know if that was it. I shouted. That wraps up. If anybody actually wants to look at any data, I actually printed off some lists of electric cars with all the popular ones showing their range, their price, just to have a little browse through. So you're welcome to have a look at some of those if you want. So if anyone got any questions on
What's
this?
to stop me
Sorry?
charging my car on your charger at 100 hours?
What, on my drive?
Yeah,
Me?
what's to stop me back up?
Well, I can tell you there's a very good answer to that because I think James might be in the same position. I don't have an electric charger at home. I have a 3-pin plug like you do. It's in the garage, or it's in the kitchen, or somewhere like that.
There's a lot.
What I do is I put the wire under the garage door and plug it in the garage, so you wouldn't get there.
There's a lot of places here that you haven't got to eyes and everything.
No, that is a good point. That's a very good point. I
There's
do
an
cover.
article in today's paper. People without driveways, it's an extra £1,000 a year to charge your car
Yeah.
on a public charger.
Really? That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the thing, isn't it?
It's probably still cheaper than petrol, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a driveway, there's a number of solutions. I mean, some councils are putting in lamppost chargers. I'm not sure if they're doing that in Brighton or not. But a lamppost charger uses the existing electricity that's in the lamppost anyway, and they just, put it at the right rate. And you can actually, if you park by a lamppost, then you can plug in, and you get on those you get quite a slow charge, so that would work overnight, but it wouldn't work for half an hour. The other thing about people without driveways is, I mean, if you're in flats, and it can't be very long before all new blocks of flats have, you know, a bank of chargers by where you park. They all have car park. I mean, flats didn't used to have car parking spaces, did they? And then when they're car parking spaces, and they're going to be having chargers as well. But yeah, they do. Public chargers cost more. I mean, if I can give you a comparison, at home we pay, I think it's, ours hasn't gone up yet, so I'm quoting old rates. 14p I think we pay in the day, a kilowatt. Overnight I think it's 4p. For 4 hours we get 4p, so that's what I try to charge my car. Because overnight it costs me about £1.50 to put 50% back in. No, if I could always charge at home, that's the best thing to do. But out on the road, you can pay 45 pence a kilowatt instead of, what's it going to be now? It's going to be perhaps 20 at home, isn't it? 18, 20p. And it's going to be at least double that on the road. So you're right, it is more expensive to charge out on the road.
Yeah, I put the paper today.
Yeah, another £1,000. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money. Yeah.
If you haven't got a driveway.
Yeah. Well, there are other ways around it. What do they call them? Pavement channels. Pavement channels. Basically, a gap in the paving slabs with a groove in it, and you feed your, because it's quite thick cables, you know, because they're high voltage. You feed your, you plug it inside from your 3-pin or your charger that you've had fitted. You run the wire under there, so no, it's not trip hazard at all. It's in a little cable, and obviously it goes up into the car.
So council's got to relay all their papers.
I don't know whether they've got to relay it or whether they can just retrofit it. No, you just drill a cable, you just drill a wider hole between where the grouting is. You just drill a wider one. But I don't know the ins and outs, but that is another solution. So lamp posts, pavement channels. I mean, I know people who have had wires plugged in the bedroom and put a post up on a pole down to the car. Oh, and incidentally, when you, no one can come along and unplug it, because when the car's locked, the charge port locks as well. So you wouldn't get the wire out unless you got a pair of shears and electrocuted yourself, you know.
Yeah.
I'm interested how this pavement channel works.
Yeah.
What about the plug on the end, the jack? It won't go in the channel.
No. I think what you do is you lay the cable across your garden or your little drive, yeah, and then you just poke it in the channel, and you don't put the plug through the channel. The plug stays here.
So we're
See
not talking about public payments then.
Yeah, we are talking about public payments, yeah. So, okay, so you've got an electric cable will have one of these connectors on the end that goes into an electric car. It's called CCS, most of them are called. You know, you'll just hold that and you'll feed the wire through the channel up to the point where it's at the end of the curve, yeah, when the end of the paving stone's finished. And then you'll just run it up, plug it in, lock the car. That's it. So you don't have to run the plug through the channel. The channel is only as wide as the cable.
We plug the cable into the.
No, the cable's already in. It's got a plug on the end of it. So you've got. I mean, I've got one at home. It's 3-pin plug for the house, for the garage. That's the usual thing. And then it's got a sort of brick on it, which is a transformer or something. And then it's got another bit of thick cable. And on the end of the thick cable is a great big plug that you can hold in your hand. It's about that long. It's called a CCS plug, or it might be a Type 2 plug. Anyway, it's got a whole load of sockets in that you wouldn't have seen before. That's what you plug in the car.
Yeah. I'm just wondering where that goes when you've driven off.
Oh no, when you drive off in the morning, you've got two choices. Most people would leave the entire cable. You take it out the car, lift it from the pavement slabs, roll it up, put it back in your hallway or your garage. Leave it there for tonight when I come home. Do you see what I mean? And you've got another cable in your bonnet or trunk or whatever you call the front boot, and you've got which you can take with you in case you need a cable anywhere else. So you either take it with you or leave it in the house. So does that make sense?
I think I've misunderstood.
Okay.
I thought you were.
James, do you want to just
I
explain?
thought you were passing a cable under the pavement
No,
in the channel.
no,
That's
in
what-
between the slabs. So if you look at a cross section, the slabs are there,
Yeah,
and they just drill a little U-shaped trench, about an inch wide, half an inch wide, into which the cable itself drops.
lays.
Yeah, lays. Sorry, lays.
Yeah,
Yeah, didn't explain
understand.
it very well. Sorry.
Yeah, I've misunderstood.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
The dedicated charges that people have outside, is there any benefit to having one of those?
Having
Any benefit to having one of
Yeah, they
those?
charge a lot quicker than, I mean, the overnight one off the 3-pin, I think it takes 2.4 kilowatts in an hour.
Can be 3.5.
Sorry?
It can be 3.5,
Can it be 3.5?
like a kettle.
Okay, can be 3.5. Didn't know that. But also the ones you would have fitted on the wall of your house or in your garage or wherever, which cost you, you know, 500 quid. By the time you've got the grants and that, they're still 400 quid, I think, 500 quid. Are they 7 kilowatts, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're more than double the speed of the 3-pin plug.
So can you adjust those then? if you
I
want
don't
to?
know. I've never had one. So I don't know.
It depends on what you need. I don't need a 7 kilowatt charge because I don't do that. If I was say commuting to London every day, to have enough kilowatts going in overnight, I would need the 7 kilowatt charger, which requires a separate circuit and costs. But
Well, it's up to
£1,000.
£1,000 and you get about 400 off.
Yeah,
But you can get them for about
yeah.
maybe 400. I'd say 500 is a reasonable ballpark figure.
Yeah.
If
But
you
in
want
my
to
case,
fit it.
I got an external socket put in,
Yeah.
just a normal socket,
Yeah.
and I plug they call it a granny charger, the 3.5
Because
kilowatt.
it's
I just plug it in and put it over the fence, put it under the fence, and then hang it over.
Does that not go over the pavement then, James? Where you
No, it's the side of the house.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've got a driveway, but you could. I mean, it's only electricity. You know, we've had it a long time. Electricians know how to put in safe conduits. Either
True.
I think we've lost the argument on rapid charging. Most people will get loads of kilowatts, really slow charging. You know, I did mine last night, and
Me
it
too.
was 5 hours at 6 pence a kilowatt. And you know, there's no comparison in cost, and you don't have to go to a petrol station.
Every time you get in your car at home to go somewhere, you've got a full tank.
Yeah.
Every time.
Or
Although the full tank might only be 140 miles or 200 miles or whatever, but as we said, how much do you need? Why carry all that heavy petrol around? Or another point that James had, which I didn't include in the talk, just for brevity, but obviously we'll cover it. James has got this point about what's the Goldilocks car, what's the exact right size of battery in a car to have. Do you think it's what, 50 kilowatts?
50 cars now have been made 50 to 60 kilowatts, which is over 200 miles.
Yeah.
220, 250 with rapid charging, with
ultra rapid charging. Yeah.
No, even with with ordinary rapid charging, which is 50 kilowatts in an hour, you replace if you stop for an hour, or less than an hour as it would be, you would go 150 miles, stop for less than an hour, go and do something, and then you'd have enough to go another 150 miles.
And the argument is that the bigger cars, you've seen these Audi e-trons and these big Mercedes EQ SUVs and things. I mean, they've got like perhaps 80 or 100 kilowatt batteries, which weigh, I was going to say a ton, but it may well be almost a ton because they're probably 2-ton cars. But they have these massive batteries around. It's the same argument as the old Range Rovers taking the kids to school, you know. You've got this massive great engine, or you've got this massive great battery, but hey, hang on, 99% of your journeys are up and down to the shops.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think your argument with that point really was if you've got just a nice compact little battery, like he's got, probably got what, 40 kilowatts, 50? 50, I've got 33, and we both I get 140 miles, he gets 200 and something, and that's fine. But if, you know, do you really want to get one of these massive cars with a huge battery just in case one day you drive to Aberdeen and you just don't want to stop? Unrealistic.
I mean, some people will need those cars, and that's a slightly different car. Most people don't go up and down the motorways every day. They go maybe once in a while on holiday. Certainly people our age, it's toddling around and then seeing friends and family once in a while.
Yeah, that's right, that's what we do. I mean, I think if you get back to the point about the rapid chargers, it's comforting to me to know that at Cobham and Toddington, which are the two places I pass on the way to my daughter's, I can stop at one or other of those and just get a bit of a top up, you know, fairly quickly in a very short space of time. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say about these chargers on the wall that people have fitted at home. Obviously, if you're working, if you're the sort of person who comes in, oh, I've got to go out again, you know, oh, I might suddenly have to drive up to Gatwick, or I might suddenly, then you need a quick charge even at home, so that's another reason you'd have one fitted.
Personally, I think there's a major problem coming with this. Okay, if you've got a house with a drive, you haven't got a problem. If you've got all these hundreds of terrace houses in Brighton who've got resident parking permits, the chance of you parking outside your drive, even though they've got a little duct underneath the thing you charge, the chance of that being very small. I know someone who lives in Brighton, and I said, oh, you've got parking. He said, oh, how often do you park outside your house? He said, no, it's usually 200 yards away. So there's no chance of this working, really, on the basis that you've got a terrace house.
Yeah.
I can't see how it can work.
Okay, so I can answer that. If this person, for example, works, and when they drive the car to work, it may be they can charge at work because the company they work for a big issue.
He's a shoppers who does own business.
Well,
there's no chance of him not doing that. You see, so I can't see how it could possibly work.
Well, the other way around it is that, I mean, what do we do with our petrol cars? We go
once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm getting a bit low, I'll pop to the local garage and make a special journey. No, nothing's stopping you doing that with an electric.
It does, because you go there and you've got to wait there half an hour, in a moment you pop in there, 10 minutes and you're out. With this one, you've got to sit in there, try and get a cup of coffee.
Okay, so if you do, I'm sure James has got lots of answers to this too. I'm just thinking now, it's the best one. So this person who has their car, they have to park 2 streets away, and they can't get outside their own charge. Maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, they go to Tesco's or Asda or Morrison's, and they can charge there because you're there for an hour doing this awful picking stuff off shelves and putting it in baskets and oh god, am I finished yet? I mean, I hate those supermarkets. But if I was doing it and my car was charging, especially for free, which I always do the case, it's good use of time, isn't it? The car's getting charged and you're doing something you have to do anyway.
Yeah, but alright.
That's another argument.
But hold on, a friend of ours came down recently from Berkshire, and he was staying in White Horse, which in the centre. But he said, before he went back, he said, oh, I'm going to charge. So he went down to Asda, and they've got loads of these low-level chargers. So he said to the chap, and they said, oh, how long can I stay here to charge this up on low level? He said, you only allowed to have 2 hours. After that, we charge you, fine you. So he parked a maximum 2 hours, and he had, I think, a 20% charge. So he finished up hopping down the road back to Berkshire, picking up chargers, and it seems to me hopeless at the moment.
Well, you just have to plan a little bit more.
Well, the things will sort themselves out, I'm sure, won't they?
Well, there will be more chargers, as I was saying.
Well,
I mean, I mean, I live in Saltbean, and the only one near me is at an Esso garage along Peacehaven. And it's a regular petrol garage, but it's got one Genie point charger, which is a rapid charger. So if I have that situation, I would just drive along there. And normally it's empty. Every time I drive past it, I don't think anyone knows it's there apart from me.
You've got Rottingdean car park as well.
Yes, that's another one. There's two or three.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't drive an electric car.
I mean, that wasn't there a year ago. the genie point in Peacehaven wasn't there 2 years ago. It's gradually coming together, and as long as you've got these things, you go out and you wait. But to answer that, you don't want to have to wait 20 or 30 minutes. Firstly, 10 years' time, all the cars are ultra rapid, so you know you'll be able to put 10 minutes in and get 50 miles, which is perhaps all you need on that occasion. I mean, it will improve.
So all I can say, at my age, I don't think I'm going to be worried. By the time this all comes in, I shan't be driving, I don't think.
Well, you might surprise yourself.
Oh no, I won't.
Any more questions?
I don't want
Your comments during your speech,
Yeah.
talking about buying an electric car,
Yeah.
it appears that you have to buy a smartphone as well.
Yeah. Good point. If you haven't got one, that's a very good point. I don't know that there's probably, James, on
Everybody's assuming that everybody's got a smartphone.
Well, yeah. It is, yes. Well, some cars will tell you.
They've got smartphones in them.
No, but you've got a sat nav in the middle of the screen on my car, and it tells me where the charging points are. I don't know how up to date it is. I could use the one in the car, so that's a possibility. But yeah, there are lots of other things come out of that comment because that increasingly you need a smart. It's like you need the internet to book a ticket, don't you? Or these days, a lot of people don't have access to the internet. I don't know what the answer
To go
is.
to a show, to go to an event, you need to have a phone
Yeah.
to get.
Rail tickets you can buy over the phone.
Yes.
Well, you need
Yeah.
to-
Yeah.
You don't need the internet for a rail ticket. Well, we don't.
No. A smartphone's useful if you've got an electric car, but it's probably not essential, really. You could look before you go and say, oh, I know there's one at Gatwick. Go out to London, there's one at Gatwick, I'll stop there. And then, because you haven't got the phone with you, you just stop and hopefully it's available. You can look at these things at home on a screen, but you would need to look at the internet to find it. These things aren't published in the local paper, where the charge points are. How are we doing?
Still recording.
Still recording? It's run out. Well, I've finished. Unless anyone's got any more questions. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you very much for coming along.
All right, pleasure. All right. Thank you.